Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brian Shanae, and today I'm going to be doing a review for In Every Mirror She's Black by Kemi at This is, I believe, her debut book, which came out a couple of weeks ago. And I was so excited to read this, and I also was gifted this from the publisher, so thank you so much for this book. But let's go ahead and get into this review for this amazing and gorgeous book right here. All right, now before I even get into this review, I would like to say there is some trigger warnings in this book as far as suicide and sexual assault, and there's also a prominent point in this book of tokenism and fetishization, which I wanted to let you know before I even get into this book. But in this book, we have three different points of view. We have Muna, who is from Somalia, who has lost everything, her family, due to war in her country, and so she goes to Sweden seeking asylum. And then we also have the other they're women, of course, the other woman, and they're black, who is Kemi, who is a marketing executive in a huge company, but she's pretty much being pretty much the token black girl in her company, and they want her to do so much of this and that, and she's not gaining anything from it, especially when she's having a relationship with her boss, or one of the people in the company, whose name is Connor, and the relationship isn't working well. So she's dealing with that. And then we also have Brittany May, who went to school to be a designer. Then a guy walks in saying that she should be a fashion model. So she does this. Next thing you know, he sexually assaults her. Then after, with her dreams of pretty much dying as being a designer, she ends up becoming a flight attendant. So the first person I want to get into is I'm pretty much going to dissect all three stories and how they do come together. That we do get to travel pretty much to Sweden in this book. Is prominently the country that we're in this book is Sweden, but they do tend from time to time go from London, the States, Atlanta, Virginia, and what have you. So the first person that I want to be talking about is Brittany May. Brittany May, like I said, is the flight attendant after being sexually assaulted. So one day she is on the plane, and a very odd man, is on the plane. Next thing you know, he just starts liking her, and for some reason she felt like she was some type of fetish in a way, and then out of nowhere, he gave her his card, and then I felt like it was like a stalker type of mode for him. His name is Johnny. And so he was trying to figure out all her schedules of when she was a flight attendant so that he could be on the plane with her. Next thing you know, he was like, you know what, you should come to dinner with me, as when she lands in London for that Pacific flight, and they have dinner. Next thing she knows that that's a big mistake, because she's in a relationship with an attorney, I believe. Yeah, an attorney. And he loves her dearly, but her boyfriend has pretty much has some trust issues because he had been in a relationship before, and his girlfriend lied to him a lot of times, so he has a lot of trust issues about that and insecure about things. So Brittany May goes to this dinner, and she regrets it. Next thing you know, Johnny constantly is sending flowers to the townhome that her and her boyfriend lived together, and of course it does not look good at all for Brittany May, because her boyfriend was like, what's going on? Who's sending you all these flowers? There's obviously a reason why he's sending you flowers. He wouldn't be just sending you flowers just to send them because he felt like it. And she's like, nothing happened, even though deep down she knows, I had dinner with him, but I'm not gonna let him know that. Next thing you know, Johnny pops up in front of their townhome at their door. And Brittany's boyfriend just punched him right in the face. It was crazy. And out of nowhere, Brittany May was more leaning towards Johnny and make sure he was okay and stuff like that, whereas opposed to she needs to be with her boyfriend, So just with that reaction alone of what she had done on her part, he didn't want nothing to do with Brittany, so he left. He packed up all his clothes and everything, and he left. And Brittany ends up pretty much falling for Johnny, and literally that same day they pretty much have a sexual encounter, and it just went from there. And then after that, after having all these trips together, months after month, and him following her on her trips, as she's a flight attendant going, across the country and whatnot, she ends up finding out that she's pregnant. And she's trying to figure out, she's determining if she wants to keep it or not. But Johnny says, please keep it. I want you to keep it. I love you. I want to be with you. Next thing you know, he does propose to her. But before she even says yes, he visited her family in Atlanta, and her dad was like, what happened to your boyfriend? Why, like, after 4 years, why would you end that relationship with someone that you really know, and then you're with this guy and you only been with him a couple months? Next thing you know, she ends up marrying the dude, and it wasn't a big wedding. Pretty much they went to the courthouse, whatever you want to call it, just a piece, to get married. So it wasn't a big wedding, because and throughout Brittany's mind, she's like, I just married this dude and we haven't been together that long, and now I'm pregnant. Next thing you know, he says, like, I know a good name. If we have a girl, we should name her Maya. And Brittany was like, why Maya specifically? And she didn't know why. And so after all that, and Brittany is starting to feel into this life. Now, when I say this life, I mean Johnny. Which, let's get into this, because they're all of the point of views tied together. Johnny is the common denominator in this book. Johnny is pretty much the CEO of a huge marketing company in Stockholm, Sweden. And so they were having a terrible time as far as diversity. Pretty much they were saying that their company was racist. So he's like, okay, I need to get somebody in here, pretty much a token black girl, a token black person, to come in here and fix all this debacle, to make sure that we have diversity and it's represented towards this company and within the company in itself. So that's when Kemi comes in play. Kemi is a marketing executive, and Johnny looked her up, and she was the top marketing executive for 2 years. And I'm like number one. And so Johnny said, you know what, you should come to Sweden and be my marketing executive, make things more diverse within our company, and for the products that we're doing as well, for diverse people, making it diverse. Which I hate when companies do that. Yeah, we just want to diversify everything, and yeah, it's just crazy. So Kemi was like, okay, I really don't have nothing much going on here. I think I've reached my peak at this company. I should move on to bigger, better things. So she ends up going to Stockholm. But as she goes to Stockholm, she realizes she is the token black person. There's not one black face in that company. Not one. And on top of that, she's like, okay, do they have hair stores for black people? She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like she felt like she was out of her element. And Johnny, the boss, like I said, is the CEO. So he's living lavish. She's barely there. And so Kemi is signed up to these seminars and classes so that she can learn Swedish. And she's really she's having a hard time adjusting to her life, especially leaving her family from the States to go all the way to Sweden. And her family just did not understand her actions, because she could have gone anywhere and she chose to go somewhere in Sweden. But Kemi also had sights on, okay, this is a new beginning for me. Maybe I'll also find love. I haven't had any good luck in the States. Maybe I'll have some luck in Sweden, which she does have luck in Sweden. And she meets a guy named Tobias. They end up getting together. But within the company and her boss, Johnny, Johnny's friend ends up working with Kemi, and Kemi is like, I thought this was my position. And he's like, no, he's going to overlook certain things and stuff like that. And she's like, this is not what you promised me. This is not what I signed up for. But then again, she was starting to romanticize about relations with his best friend, her boss's best friend, who is Ragnar. And it was just weird. I think her friend, especially her sister, was saying I know you're with Tobias, but he's only a security guard. But then you have Ragnar, who is also the top person in the company. And, Kemi had that in her head. And me and my husband were talking about this, because he was like, yeah, some women do that. But the thing is, you should be happy for your man, and I feel like Kemi, she felt like maybe he was just being stagnant. He didn't want to do nothing else with his life, just be a security guard. And there's a lot of things when it comes to that, and that's why there's this stereotype of black women end up going with white men because they treat them better. It's a lot in this book that deals with stereotypes, a lot, and colorism. And so, as I said, when Brittany May is married to Johnny, so Brittany ends up meeting Kemi, and they do not get along. But Johnny felt like, oh, they're both black. They're going to be best friends. That was not the case. that assumption is astonishing to me. Okay, yes, we're black, but that does not mean we're gonna like each other. Like, oh my gosh, we're gonna be best friends. That's not it. And, you know, Kemi was like, okay, seriously? And this was at a party that they met, you know, that Brittany and Kemi met. And so that was that whole thing. But then we get into Muna, who's at this asylum. You know, she's trying to pretty much get her life together after she lost her mom, her dad, her sister. She was falling for a guy named Ahmad. But he ends up killing himself, I think because he just felt like he was not going to get asylum in Sweden. He was going to be sent back to his country. And so she was heartbroken at that. But soon she was able to pretty much assimilate into, you know, becoming a citizen of Sweden after a few years after she worked. But as she was getting on her feet and everything, she started losing people again in her life, as far as people she called sisters who lived with her and they end up leaving. And then you have this woman named Gunhild, who pretty much was was Muna's mom at the time, and she ended up passing due to cancer. And so Muna, you know, she was trying to figure everything out, and she also was trying to figure Kemi out because Muna was a janitor. She had a janitorial job. And she was so amazed with Kemi. And she was also a little bit amazed with Brittany, but she was like, why is Brittany with a white dude? She was like that. She was thinking in her head, but she never really had a really close relationship with either Brittany May or Kemi. But at the end of the day, Muna was just, her back was to the wall, and she just couldn't take it anymore. And she ended up committing suicide at the end of the book. But then we have Kemi, who pretty much could not take Sweden anymore, and she even asked Tobias would he be willing to move back to the States with her. So we have that. So that was Kemi and Muna's ending. But then we have Brittany, who's just trying to figure everything out. She's thinking about becoming a designer again, and thinking about doing school and stuff like that. But then, as she is married to Johnny's parents did not want anything to do with Brittany. Nothing. Like, they didn't talk to her, nothing. They didn't even acknowledge that they were going to have a grandchild. And so as their daughter came, which they do have a girl named Maya, Brittany May was approached by one of Johnny's sisters, I believe, Astrid. And Astrid was telling her, like, Johnny has a fetish for black women, and you specifically, because you look like a specific person to him. And so back in the day, before Brittany and everything else, he went to school in London, and he met a girl named Maya Daniels, and he fell in love with her, but she ended up pregnant. And so when his parents found out, they paid her off for her to have an abortion. Sorry about this. This is also trigger warning. And so as she was getting the operation done, she dies. She passed away. And so Johnny was like, no, I want Maya. I want Maya. I don't care what y'all say. I'm going to have Maya. Even though she's gone, she's passed away. She died. And so that's when he meets Brittany, who looks like Maya in a way. And the next thing you know, he names his daughter Maya. And Brittany was like, what? Like, seriously? And she was pissed at Johnny. She didn't like, so you really didn't love me. You loved the fact that of me looking like resembling a girl that you known years ago that's passed away. She's no longer here, you know, on this earth. And Johnny was like, well, you're trapped now. You're with me. And that's how that was. Brittany had no escape. That was it. Like, she married him, had his daughter, and she had no other way out. And so with this book, we deal a lot with fetishes, which Johnny has, as well as his best friend Ragnar, because Ragnar was also married as well and was about to have his second kid with his wife. But he was like, I wonder what it would be like to have sex with a black woman. I'm like, what the freak? So it was all over the place, but it was a good all over the place, because you do notice certain things, especially in companies, how you have a lot of these stereotypes about black women. Like, it's ridiculous to me. And even in synopsis, if I can give you a gist of it, what it's about with my review before I continue on, it says, successful marketing executive Kemi Adeyemi is lured from the U.S. to Sweden by Johnny von Luden, CEO of the nation's largest marketing firm, to help fix a PR fiasco involving a racially tone-deaf campaign. A killer at work but a failure in love, Kemi's move is a last-ditch effort to reclaim her social life. Then we have a chance meeting with Johnny in business class en route to the U.S. propels former model turned flight attendant Brittany Ray Johnson into a life of wealth, luxury, and privilege. A life she's not sure she wants as the object of his unhealthy obsession. Which he has an obsession with Brittany. And then we have, and refugee Muna Shahid, who lost her entire family, finds a job cleaning the toilets at Johnny's office as she works to establish her residency in Sweden, and more importantly, seeks connection in a place she can call home. Told through the perspectives of each of the three women in Every Mirror She is Black is a fast-paced, richly nuanced, contemporary social novel that explores the deepest depths of what it means to be a Black woman navigating a white-dominated society. And literally with just that synopsis alone, it hits perfectly, especially when you read this book. Like, I got so frustrated with each of the characters, but then I understood a lot of things. Especially being a Black woman is difficult. It is hard. And I know, like, my husband, he's like, no, men got it harder, Black men got it. I'm like, okay, whatever you say, but women got it harder too. We really do. People take advantage of us. They can just do whatever they want, say whatever you want to us, and we ain't gonna do nothing. Nah, we ain't having that. Like, I'm just over it. Like, especially with the last job that I had, you know, I really felt like they were trying to make it more, it seemed like it was diverse. They asked me if I could do, you know, sort of like promos for the company and stuff like that. So they picked like 3 or 4 Black people, so that they could pretty much show diversity. I don't think they really realized that I know what you're playing at. So they did use me for that. But the thing is, there was like, I could count as many Black people were in that company. And so it's just crazy to me how with these companies, they're like, yeah, we need some diversity, but technically it's still a white dominated, you know, company. Like, it's not diverse. And so, yeah, this book really gets into that. I really enjoyed this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars because it's really that good. It talks about fetishization, tokenism, stereotypes that a lot of Black women face on a regular basis. I just really fell in love with this book, and I love that Lola has done an amazing job, especially when it comes to the 3 different points of view of each of these characters, of Muna, Kemi, and of Brittany Ray. This book, I barely could put it down. Like, every time, like, I put it down, I'm like, okay, I need to know more. I need to know what's happening. What's going to happen with Brittany and Johnny? You know, what's Johnny going to do with Kemi? And what is Muna going to do because she's trying to be a citizen of Sweden? It's just, it was all over the place, but it's so realistic that I don't even know any type of words to express that this book was really accurate in a lot of things, and it's really realistic to how I keep saying realistic because it is realistic. It's about stereotypes and everything like that. Like, I'm just in love with this book. And it also talks about the comparisons between Swedish and American societies. It goes down into a lot of issues, and it like handles issues of racism and sexism. It breaks down a lot of issues that Black women face. And it says Johnny's infatuation with Brittany borders on unhealthy, and yet there is a part of her that is drawn to him in the beginning. She didn't think like she had an unhealthy relationship with Johnny until she was pretty much told by her sister-in-law that what Johnny wants, he gets. He does have a temper. But you know, throughout this book, Brittany was like, I can tell when Johnny's lying and stuff like that. But deep down, you really didn't know Johnny. And you know, and there was a reason why his parents didn't want to have nothing to do with you, and they felt like he shouldn't be in a relationship because he was just an unhealthy person, unstable. You know, and then it goes into information like with Kemi's relationship with Ragnar. Yes, it was very unhealthy as well. It's just crazy when it comes to that. And it says also here, Johnny's privilege and the protection his money affords him ultimately becomes problematic for Brittany and her child, which it does, because he pretty much telling Brittany, like, I have the power, I have the money, where are you gonna go? You need help moving, you need money to move, you're trapped. Pretty much, that's what Johnny pretty much told Brittany Ray as she found out about his fetish and that he really didn't love Brittany. to be honest with you. But he really loved that baby because they named him Maya after his lover, you know, Maya Daniels passed away. And it's just really disheartening about that as well. That's still common in America, you know, of women that when they have abortions, they may pass away. But also, I feel like it is, you know, it's a woman's right to choose what she wants to do with her body as well. It's just, like I said, it's hard being a woman, but also a Black woman in general. I will just tell y'all that straight up. But like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I really recommend anybody who wants to read it, they should definitely read it. I probably will be reading this again this year before the year is over. But I definitely wanted to give you my points on this book. I think it was very complex. I think it talks about a lot of stereotypes and issues that we go on a regular basis in society, in our own communities, of colorism, sexism, fetishes, and tokenism, everything like that. And I find that very great that this book talks about that, especially in the workplace. I find that very fascinating. So it gives you different points of view of different types of situations, which I also pretty much liked, where we have Brittany, who was a flight attendant and married somebody that had money. Then she had nothing of her own. You have Kemi, that was pretty much the top of her game, a marketing executive, and she ends up realizing that, you know, she still has to be treated with respect, and that with what they promised her, that was her contract. That's what she's supposed to do. You're not supposed to say, no, you're gonna do this now, after she dig y'all out of the hole of y'all being racist and whatnot. You know what I mean? Like, come on. And then you have Muna, who lost everything and continued to lose people, but she tried to keep motivating herself on trying to go to school and stuff and all that, trying to be an accountant and trying to be a citizen in Sweden and all that. But then again, she felt like it wasn't enough because a lot of people were leaving her and dying and passing away, and she's like, I can't take it anymore, and she took her own life. All that is realistic. I'm gonna keep saying realistic because this book is realistic. But like I also said at the beginning of this this review, that there is a lot of trigger warnings, you know, suicide. I also mentioned abortion. You also deal with sexual assault that Brittany had went through. There's a lot of things going on in this book, and I think it had me crying. I will say, like, I was crying, I was bawling. But 5 out of 5 stars for this book. I really, really recommend you reading this, you guys. But anyways, sorry about my rambling. But anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.